really successful businesses, they really manage a lot of the metrics of what's going on. You know, they keep an eye on how much they're making, they keep an eye on how many people are coming through the door. They're measuring all these statistics, and you really should be doing that with your own trading as well. Treat it like a business.
I think if you're not writing down your trades and you're scared to look at it, I mean, you're scared to look at yourself. If you're not keeping some kind of journal or record of, I remember in the early days, I used to write down on an Excel sheet everything, all the different trades, and some of the trades were so bad, I stopped writing them down. I thought, wow, I mean, how can I make a trade like this? And then a few years ago, I came across, I think it was a journal from 99 or 2000, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, that was bad. But then I really looked at it, and I realised that I was probably right 8 out of 10 times. It was those 2 times where my money management discipline or personal failing in some way had run away with me that had caused that idea, and I don't even remember how I was trading then, to fail. If I could have controlled those parts, if I could have been limited the risk, like you were saying earlier, they would actually, I would have been successful with that particular method.
I've got just a couple of questions just to finish up on.
Sorry, on that.
Yeah, please.
Like I said, I haven't taught anybody for a long time. I do occasionally come across people, but there was a time where I did train quite a few people, and one of the common things I found was that traders in the first month were generally more successful than they were 6 months later, because they went off, they knew a system, and they didn't know anything else. They only knew what they were taught. Whether it was good or bad, they stuck to the little bit that they knew, and they could sometimes have success. But 6 months later, when they were experienced the rest of the world, and then they had to reinvent the mousetrap and get complicated, was really when they failed.
And again, to draw it back to the business analogy of I know when you do take over a McDonald's franchise, they say a lot of the people who take over McDonald's franchises, they're less successful the more educated they are. If they've gone through your Harvard and all this sort of stuff, because McDonald's got their system so well mapped out where they can drop anyone in and you follow the system. But people who have, you know, once they start to, if they've got, bring their own experiences in and then try and tweak the system, and they end up making a mess of it. So I think there's definitely a lot of parallels there. You mentioned a few of different trades and things like that that you've taken. I think a lot of people can learn from, you know, what was your best trade and what was your worst trade, and what sort of system were you trading at the time, and what did you take away from it? There's a few questions there, but...
You know, the best and worst trade was my last trade, I guess, as I always say. You're as good as your last trade, but the... I can tell you the worst trade is quite easy there. I remember... you know, I'm almost embarrassed to say, but I don't know if you've experienced it, but if you trade long enough, you will screw up. And often with the dealing stations, I don't know what they call them here, dealing desks, where you have your buy and sell orders. Every now and then I'll press the wrong button. For whatever reason, I mean to buy it, I mean to go long, and I press the wrong button. And there was one occasion where I was, I think I was long the euro, and I was long for quite a large amount, and I got a visitor from nowhere. So instead of closing the trade, or what I thought I closed the trade by going short, I actually bought again. So after a few hours, my visitor had gone. I can't remember the exact amount, but I was down like $20,000 or $30,000 on this trade, and that was one of the worst trades. Not because of the amount, just because I couldn't believe I was so silly about not checking it. And I left it, actually, that particular trade, I left it for about 4 hours. I watched it, and I eventually got out with a loss. But that was one of my, worst trades. Funnily enough, one of my best trades wasn't in the Forex market. It was in the indexes, where America had a surprise rate increase, and I just happened to be the right side of the market. And I couldn't believe it. It took me about 5 minutes to figure out why I had almost, you know, treble the amount that I was trying to get that day, which is very nice. I think that was one of my favourite trades. It was such an unexpected. I was on the phone to the broker, and I was arguing with the broker about the price that he'd given me, and I think it was the Nasdaq. I think it was the Nasdaq. And he said to me, oh my God, they've just changed the interest rates. Do you want in or do you want out? He said, you get 10 seconds. And I said, I'll stay in. And I didn't really know, but I was trying to figure out in my brain what this meant. Was it good or bad? But I said, I'll stay in. And then it had this huge leap. So that was one of the nicest trades.
How did you get out of that trade? When something like that unexpected comes, it's almost like a windfall. Do you have a point where you just cut out at the top? When I make X%, I'm out, or?
Yeah. Well, then it was still it was a good few years ago. I mean, I got out about 5 minutes after I saw the leap. I mean, it wasn't technical at all. I just thought, whoopee, this is good, and closed the trade.
And now, would you? Is that the way you'd approach it now?
No, I'd probably. I'm more patient now. You know, the big fluctuations don't frighten me anymore. It doesn't. And also, I don't know if you find this. I'm very often on the wrong side of the market when I go in. You know, in other words, I don't go into the market and then immediately I'm successful, or the trade goes in the right direction. Very often the market will move against me for a bit. So I'm more comfortable with the market moving against me. It doesn't scare me anymore. You know, it takes a lot to frighten me out of a position.
Yeah.
That's exactly the same with my stocks. Consistently, a week after I buy, I'm down. That's just the way. That's just the pattern that I use as a setup to get in. I go past the previous peak, so it moves up. I get in. Give it a week later, it's retraced back down below that peak. I'm still in the trade because it's still away from my stop, but I'm down in the trade. That happens on a regular basis. And as you said, you get comfortable with it because that's just the way it happens.
And I think people over-concentrate in the entry as well. They want to try and get it right down to the pinpoint when they should get in.
Yeah, I'm over that. Yeah.
Especially both of you have going for the more longer time frame, which means it really does open you up to there can be more of an error in judgment in when you get in because you're going for a longer trend. Whereas you're saying when you're trading the very short time frames, there's really very small margin for error on very short.
Or you're trading interest rate changes. You need to be very timely.
That's it. Good timing. I think the last question I wanted to finish up on is to find out if you were going to suggest traders out there read a book. What would be the one book that you'd say, hey, this, I know it's hard to narrow down. You've got quite a large collection.
Should I mention Trading in a Nutshell?
You can if you want, but mention another one too.
I think Market Wizards is always good. That's always a good book. It's generally reading trading. It's very unusual to find a good trading book that's also readable, because some of them are very dry. Some of it's just very mechanical. And I did enjoy your book. I think it's a good book.
Thank you. That was the editor who did all that good work.
And I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. The last book that I think I bought, and I used to buy everything. And a lot of stuff that I get now is given to me. People they'll give me the course of the book and ask me to review it. And I think the last one I bought, and the name escapes me again, was Chart Patterns that I got from Amazon. And it was a study of all the different chart patterns that this chap had studied over the last 5 or 10 years.